Namaste. Welcome to all of you in this virtual international conference organized by Nelta Province 7. I would like to welcome all the valued participants without whom this conference doesn't have any sense. And I would equally like to welcome today's panelist of this session. We have three panelists today: Professor Jairaj Awasthi, Professor Laxman Gnawali, and Guru Ama Madhu Neupane, who taught me in the year 2007 to 2009. This issue is all about the research. Uh, I felt the need of this topic for the discussion uh, from my experiences, what I encountered during my MPhil study, and what I felt, what I learned from the students after that when I engaged myself with their research works. Uh, Students have generally problem in case of research agendas, research topic, research problems, research literature, and even analysis, and these all. Feeling it, I thought of bringing this issue in the floor to discuss more. So I'd like to welcome all the panelists again, and formally let me introduce today's our panelist. The first panelist we have is respected Professor Dr. Jairaj Awasthi. Jairaj Awasthi, born in the remote village of Darchula district of Nepal, started his teaching career in 1975 from Nepalganj campus of Tribhuvan University. His 4-decade-long teaching at Tribhuvan University continued until he took retirement as a professor of English language education in 2015. From 2011 to 15, he worked as the founding vice chancellor of Far Western University. Currently, he is visiting faculty at the School of Education of Kathmandu University. After his postgraduate studies in English literature and English education from Tribhuvan University, he earned his third master's degree from the University of Michigan in applied linguistics as a Fulbright scholar in 1987, where he had an opportunity to study with Professor J.C. Catford, John Swales, Peter Hook, Larry Selinker, Susan Guess, and John Morley. He completed his PhD in 1995 from the University of Hyderabad. He won Fulbright postdoctoral scholarship in 2005 to work with Professor Susan Guess at Michigan State University on second language studies. He has co-authored and co-edited more than 35 textbooks for school and the university level students. He has given plenary and key speeches in national and international conferences on ELT and education. He was one of the founding members of Linguistic Society of Nepal, Nepal English Language Teachers Association NELTA, Fulbright Alumni Teachers Educators Society Nepal, and worked as the past president of NELTA and LSN. Welcome to you, Professor Awasthi, sir. Likewise, we have another panelist of this session, Professor Laxman Gnawali. He is Associate Dean of Kathmandu University School of Education as well. Dr. Laxman Gnawali, Professor and Head of Department of Language Education at Kathmandu University, leads EFL teacher education programs in Nepal. An alumnus of Kathmandu University, Nepal, University of Exeter, England, he taught English language at primary, secondary, and tertiary levels before coming to the university to contribute to the field of teaching or teacher education and training. He is an acclaimed figure in English language education in Nepal. His national and international contributions include EFL textbook, articles, and book chapters on language pedagogy, and teacher professional development. A University of Exeter alumnus, Dr. Gnawali has repute in outside Nepal for inspiring teachers for professional development through network building. He currently serves NELTA as its senior vice president. Welcome to you, Professor Gnawali.
Thank you.
Likewise, we have a third panelist, our Guru Ama, Madhu Neupane. I would like to welcome her and let me introduce her. Madhu Neupane Bastula is a lecturer at Department of English Education, Tribhuvan University, Khetipur. Currently, she is a PhD scholar at the Department of English, the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, Hong Kong. Her scholarship focuses on academic reading and writing, graduate research supervision, corpus-based research, and Nepalese higher education. I would like to welcome Madhu Neupane.
Thank you so much.
Now, I would like to request Mr. Ashok Sakwata to chair the session. Over to you, Ashok sir.
Good morning and namaste to all respected panelists, all dignitaries from NELTA Center, province and districts. Today we are in the panel discussion entitled Research Avenues, Process, Possibility and Challenges. Firstly, I would like to take an opportunity to naman all three valued gurus and gurumas who helped my academic career and created positive vibes in me and positive vibes in most of the participants present here. And thank you so much for creating positive vibes. At present, there are 181 participants in this virtual conference. If you have any questions, you can post in the chat, but for the time being, the chat is disabled, but after a few minutes, the answer will be enabled for it. And we will check the questions from chat box as well. And at the end, if you want to put your questions orally, after even if the questions are not addressed, then we can give you the voice option as well. So as Dian sir said, the home ground rules for this panelist, I hope you bear with this. As you have been teaching, supervising, and conducting research projects in higher level or higher education in Nepal, could you please share the current situation of ELT practices, ELT research practices in Nepal? Let's begin this panel with respected Guru Jairaj Awasthi.
Thank you, Suji. Thank you, Dian, for elaborated introduction, which is very difficult to hold actually. Thank you, everyone. Good morning. I could see 192 people, and there's one fellow said, been waiting for this occasion from 1992. Thank you for loving us, for trying to be with us for so long, from 1992. It's been 18 years. Thank you. Ashokji, before I go to the ELT research situation in this country, I would like to borrow 3 words from Dr. Sun, who was a TESOL president in the year 2014. In her presidential blog, she said, ELT has now 3 catchwords. The first one is globalization, then localization, and interdisciplinary collaboration. So these 3 words show the undercurrent of ELT globally and locally. So if you could see, when I was a grad student, I master's in applied linguistics and my major was ESL. TESOL was not seen that much. So from TESOL or TEFL, for example, we studied TEFL here. It moved to TESOL. From TESOL to English as an international language. And then it moved to a tenor, which is teaching English for no obvious reason. Maybe we are teaching English without reason, perhaps. And then from there, it moved to uh, teaching English as a social responsibility. And then communicative language teaching or contextual language teaching. That is what she says. And it moved on to world Englishes. And now we are buzzing English as a lingua franca. So within this parameter, we have seen the current flow of English language teaching globally. And now the buzzword is social accountability, how English, say through English, we learn the world problems. If we are not, aware of the world problems, our learning of English is of no use at the local level. So therefore, we have to see international parameter of language, like social accountability or environmental destruction or corruption, whatever it is. And then in the meanwhile, we move to the post-method pedagogy as I presented it in Scholars Associations, last week before for the Mahendranagar people. My own friend Kumar Baladebelu started with the championing post-method pedagogy. Or later on, we are now talking about content-based or CLAIL, or you may be talking about theme-based and content-based. Yesterday, the day before yesterday, I think, I was observing the panel discussion led by Professor Dr. Bhattrai, where we were talking about content-based and theme-based language teaching, which we introduced in the mid-90s, early 20s or so. So not only this, it has also, specified the specific roles of the English teachers, right from, say, linguistic competency to instructional and intercultural competency, because we were talking about communicative competencies has moved to now, intercultural competence also. And on top of that, now you have got the intervention of technology in English language teaching, which becomes a avenue for research also. If you read a recent thesis of Kathmandu University by Dr. Seskant, who has, worked on Web 2.0. This is how the technology is intervening English language teaching. So therefore, the changing scenario of English language teaching worldwide and then locally, it has moved on to the research, change in the research parameters as well. Now, within this very framework, what I could see is, if you remember in 2018, Gary Burkajian, he specified the research areas, particularly for TESOL. Please interrupt me if I'm speaking more. He talks about, say, language skills and aspects and their methodology, and then project-based kind of things, or maybe the materials. So if you look at the research scenario now in at the local level or international level, these could be the things that we start with, or language teacher education, which is booming up. Laxman sir is there because his PhD was on teacher education, so he elaborate these things. Learner and teacher motivation. Language testing and assessment, that's another area. Language and identity, which is booming in Nepal also after 1990s. And then language in education, policy and planning, and also the TESOL and the TEFL standard worldwide and practices. Within this parameter, I would like to tell you what the research, I took one example from a university where I reviewed about 27 theses, dissertation carried out within a matter of 4 years. What I saw is, out of 27 research works, 6 people did on teacher development. So that's huge. And the second was learning strategy or methodology, which is 5, 6, 5, 11. So these two areas almost took about 50% of the research areas. Then you've got learning strategies 3, and then language and power 2, and the rest of them like literacy, language and technology, and then teaching strategies, learner autonomy, writing, language anxiety, medium instruction, and teaching materials. So these are one in terms of frequency. So this is what we have seen. So teacher development has got a priority. And Ashokji, I mean, you have done on teacher development, your MPhil thesis also on teacher development. So
Sure.
the main thrust is we have to make the teachers reflect themselves, make the teachers become researcher. So make them get the insight of researching. So therefore, this is what I have seen in the Nepali research scenario, but it goes along with the way we teach English, the way we introduce English, the way we give status to English, the way we give weight to English. So all this depends upon where our research, inclination is heading to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Guru, Professor Dr. Jairaj Awasthi. Now the participant number is increasing. We have 213 participants on the screen, if you see, and they are hearing, I will say, national wide and internationally as well. Now, the same question to Guru Laxman Gnawali, sir, please.
Thank you so much, our Guru Jairaj sir, and another panelist, Madhu Madam from Hong Kong, and President of NELTA, Madhu Madam, and everybody else, organizers. This morning, I mean, it's a very pertinent issue we are discussing. I think there's a generation, there's a host of generations here involved in the discussion. I mean, Jai sir's generation was, working in certain issues and certain research traditions in 1970s, 80s, and then later the scenario has moved on into different topics, different issues, and different kind of research paradigms. So I think it's a good mix of ideas and experiences to share. Now, coming to my experience of research in ELT or English language teacher education, I think I have been into this very intensely from 2000 onward. It's been 20 years. Before that, I was into language teaching, and then teacher education I came after 2000 only. So in these years, I have observed, I have seen, I have heard, and also I have been involved in supervising as well as myself. I did my master's and PhD after 2000, my second master's. I've seen that ELT research has been changing. Like I remember one ELT writer, Donald Britton, saying, ELT moves very fast. Yesterday's orthodoxy becomes today's heresy. That's what he says. Means we keep changing, and not only in pedagogy and materials, but also in research traditions, because everything moves as one flow. And in this, I see that the latest issues that graduate students are looking into as a research research agenda for them. I've got a list here I would like to share. Students have undertaken vocabulary learning, teacher agency, English language development of teachers, teacher trainers, teacher identity, multilingual classrooms, EMI, teacher readiness, ICT in language teaching, and then critical thinking, alternative assessment, power play in the classrooms, and teacher training hall discourse, and project-based learning, teacher resilience, and female teachers professional development, differentiated instruction, and then art-based teaching and learning, mobile learning, this local culture and teacher training materials, exam anxiety, pedagogical capital, culture sensitive pedagogy. So here we can see that there was a time when this linguistic analysis like error analysis, contrastive analysis used to be the major agenda. Still they are pertinent, but due to the social change and globalization, as I was mentioning, the agenda has moved on to more sociological perspective of language teaching. Like in the classrooms, so we are dealing not only with structures and words and pronunciation of the language we are teaching, but also dealing with the local demography, sociology, economy, psychology, several other dimensions. So we are into that. Plus, teacher education, teacher development didn't used to be the central stage agenda, but now that has come into the mainstream. And then you can see many of the topics that I mentioned, are related to teacher, teacher status, teacher psychology, teacher practices, and then teacher learning and teacher professional development and all that. Likewise, I've seen that, that research methodologies also have borrowed, developed within ELT and also borrowed many from, social sciences, like, ethnography, which is not actually initially the language teaching, research methodology there, narrative inquiry, and then, this interpretive inquiry, as a paradigm. Earlier we used to have more into, conversational analysis, analyzing the structures and expressions, and its physics, but now many others, including, this audio ethnography. So this also has moved. But I would like to share a few things here that I would like, I've realized as a person in the ELT arena, that is, we have not a very strong feeling in the academics, including the teachers and students. Overall, I'm talking about, not individually. Research doesn't become a real agenda. It becomes a sort of a step ahead to gain something. For example, for students, it may be a thesis writing, maybe just a requirement to get a degree. And then maybe for many teachers, it may be a requirement to get promotion. It is not taken as a knowledge building, knowledge building for the society. Because higher education, let me put very strongly here, getting higher education is not only for personal good. It is not only my good. It is for the social good. It is for the for the larger society. For this, it becomes our responsibility to also to think from that line and then undertake the kind of methodologies, the kind of research agenda in this language teaching, so we can improve the language teaching scenario in this country. But what we do is we take it sort of, formalities. Like, let me give you one example. In many teacher training sessions and also in my formal teaching in masters and higher, I always ask one question to my participants in the initial days. The question is this: where did the ideas you have in second language teaching or we have in second language teaching come from historically? The second language teaching ideas that we are discussing, that we are practicing, maybe I should say quote unquote selling to make our living, where did they come from? Then people get puzzled because, perhaps they did not expect this question. But when I explain, then the discussion goes on to that. We rely mainly on second language teaching knowledge that we borrowed from the Western countries. Initially, it's fine. We have to also borrow and import knowledge from other countries to further our initiatives. But we also need to grow our own knowledge, build on our own knowledge. We have done, whoever has done, has really done seriously, but the overall, this discourse of the total ELT community and also beyond the ELT community in Nepal lacks that commitment, that responsibility, that accountability of undertaking research, so that the homegrown knowledge for language teaching would actually be in the center, and then the knowledge base that we use from other countries should be just peripheral, but we are practicing other way around. These kind of discussions and our involvement in this, I think will change the perspective that we have, so that we will make larger investments, not only in terms of money, but also in terms of our thoughts, in terms of our, involvement, that we will undertake more research. And then one day, there will be a day when, there will be people who are cited, referred to from within Nepal, or, Nepali origin from other countries. Now the scenario is not that positive, but still I'm hopeful that we will see that day very soon. For now, so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Laxman sir, for your experience sharing. And we have participants' questions that they have raised in between. We have a pre-survey before we form these questions, and we'll also come to those questions. Now, the similar experience sharing with Guruma Madhu Neupane. Over to you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Professor Zara Awasthi and Laxman sir for their elaborated presentation about the ELT scenario. I don't think I'm that much prepared to discuss about that, but what I have seen is, if we talk of research trend, ELT research trend, actually if we explore the literature and try to see what is going on in Nepal, it is very difficult to find the trend itself, because as Laxman sir said, Jairaj sir said, we have so much research. Students have been conducting different types of research. As Laxman sir specified the area, Jairaj sir specified the areas. So there is research, but that has not been that much visible, because this thesis research and other things, the students complete their thesis and that remains there. And for other people to see what trend is actually going on in Nepal, it should come in print. So my observation, this is very naive, but what I see is we cannot actually figure out what trend is going on in Nepal. We can see some research in professional development, like Laxman sir has also published on that. We can see some research on language policy and planning, and some research in ICT, a little bit. This is slowly growing, but actually for the time being, it's kind of difficult to find out the trend itself, because research has not been there for the public.
Well, yes, this is a very nice platform I felt when Laxman sir and Guru Professor Awasthi sir was saying. We could see 3 panelists from 3 generations. Jairaj sir from 1 generation is still up. Laxman sir and Madhu ma'am is still the new generation coming up. So here, coming to the participants, still novice writer, as Madhu just now she said, it is, we talk now about the process of research writing. It is believed that students or learners still feel difficult to write research. We can even say thesis, such as selecting topic, framing the statement of problem, even determining objectives and methodology. Could you share your long experience of supervising thesis and the ways to support? My focus is here. Experience of supervising thesis and the ways to support students in this regard. Now, over to you, Guru Jairaj Awasthi.
Thank you, Ashokji. This is a very pertinent question. Definitely, we are of three generations, as Laxman sir has pointed out. I was, say, exposed to error analysis and contrastive analysis at Michigan, no doubt. And that's what I led myself to. But the things are changing. In overall, what I saw is, I recollect I had evaluated almost 1,200 master's theses and supervised some hundreds perhaps at the master's level and some at the PhD and MPhil level. So, we often we often get a question from our researcher, from our students. Sir, can you give me the research topic?
Exactly.
So the problem lies from there. If the student asks us to give them the problem, then they are not doing research at all. Problem is everywhere. When they read, if they don't understand the text, that is a problem. That's where they start with. I normally used to project one small research that I did. That was, somebody sent me good morning, kind of a lot of pictures on that. And then I sent the same thing to about 600 people in half an hour. And then the responses that I got from them, I analyzed the data, and it was a wonderful research. So research doesn't mean that it has to be a big project and has to be funded. So the first thing is with the researcher, with the students themselves, because they don't find the problem. They have problems everywhere, but they don't find the problem. So therefore, they come up with the problem. Why they come up to us to seek for the problem is that their reading is less. They have to read a lot where the problem lies. So the first thing is they have to identify, since they have studied for about now 18 years, they know where the problem lies. So therefore, the first thing is the problem, identification of problem. If they identify is still there's a problem narrowing it down. So therefore, we have to make our researchers to read a lot because they do not have the reading habit yet. So they need to read a lot in order to identify the problems, and they have to read books. They have to read the previous researches also. They are available in the libraries. And on top of that, the thing goes to the research supervisors also. We have to supervise sometimes 40, 50, or 60 or 100 theses in case of Kirtipur, some big colleges. So we don't have time. Many of us are not full-time faculties also to give full time to our students. So in that case, students do not get much of the supervisor's time and discussion time as well. That is what I faced myself also. And the research courses that we give to the students, they are basically theoretical. We teach them what is the research problem, and then what is the proposal writing, what are the components of proposal writing, but we do not deal with the practicalities. The students know the theory, but they cannot produce the proposal by the end of the research course. So therefore, we need to revamp the research methodology course and make it completely practical so that all these activities take place in the classroom itself. So this should be basically on research writing proposal and colloquiums, and providing, the teachers, researchers have also to provide ebooks. Sometimes we ask the students, bring the proposal, and then, okay, this is a very easy job for us. But the student don't know. So therefore, from our part, as a supervisor, we do not give much of the insight to the students in order to lead them to do the research. So therefore, the other thing is, since Madhu ma'am is here, Laxman sir is here, writing, course of writing, even we give them the writing course, but it is still theoretical.
Sure.
Everywhere, if you go to the United States, to other countries, the university entrants have to do the course on academic writing and then rhetorics, all these things. So, but we give the courses, we have given the courses, but they are still theoretical. If you look at the examination, what are the steps of writing? This is what the students are, examine. So therefore, the difficulties that my students, faced in the past is, they don't have enough reading materials. Even if they are given the reading material also, they do not read a lot, because they have to be voracious reader. Once they read, synthesize it, and write the book reviews, article reviews. If you keep on doing that, that helps us. This is what is done at Kathmandu University. The students write a lot, read a lot, present a lot. We are just, learner with them. We are co-learners. And then I normally say to the MPhil students, we are co-learners. We learn, say, together. And for the PhD students, I always say, you have to teach me. PhD students, they read a lot, in their area, and we are not expert in them. So therefore, PhD students have to teach the supervisors. MPhil and MA or MH students have to learn together with the supervisors. This tradition is not working. So we have to have a lot of colloquiums, we have a lot of presentation, we have a lot of exercises, lot of, examples, they are discussed in the classroom. Each and every lines are to be taken care of. So if we do it, then I think research will not be a problem. I was in Kailali campus a few months back, and the students asked me the same question. Please give me a research problem, how to identify the problem, how to get the problem for the research. So therefore, this is a very critical scenario. And then we all, research supervisors and the students, have to take it very seriously. Otherwise, there's a lingering. A 2-year master's program lingers up to 4 years. 1.5-year MPhil program lingers up to 7 years also, who knows? So therefore, we need to make our researcher, read a lot, and they synthesize their reading and discuss with the supervisors. Supervisors give time so that, they become co-learner and collaborator. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Guru, Professor Dr. Zairaj Awasthi, for your remarks and sharing from Masters, MPhil, and PhD, connecting with all the 3 levels. I believe the participants here are from all the 3 levels, and some of them are thinking to pursue PhD, some MPhil, and some of them might be currently working with master's thesis. Well, with the same experience, same sharing with your works, with the students feeling with writing thesis, selecting topic, framing statement of problem, determining objectives and methodology, and here sharing your experience of those supervising thesis and the ways to support students in this regard. Over to you, Professor Dr. Laxman Gnawali, sir.
Thank you, Ashokji. This is a very relevant question and an issue that bothers all of us. I would like to second to everything Joy sir has shared, because I agree with every point, every experience that he has shared, and then also many of them I've also undergone. And I would like to just kind of reiterate and add to the points that he has said. There are issues and there are problems related to students. There are issues and problems that are related to faculties, and there are problems related to also research. These respondents. Where we can collect data. I'll share that why. And there are problems with the institutions, the organizations, the universities, let us say. Now, with the students. To begin with, the students do not arrive at the master's level or higher level for research degrees with the readiness that they need. Number one is academic writing, but more than that, the other one that I already said is the mindset that they need to undertake research, because this is higher education where knowledge building also is their responsibility. It's not simply, getting a degree. It's not like, getting a license to drive a motorbike or a car. It's something else. I mean, using and living on with the knowledge others created is one thing, but creating your own knowledge is, a lot higher level of, academic exercise that we can do. But why do the students come like that? Why? I mean, if you give an option, wherever there are options, will you do thesis or a course paper or a small research paper? Then most students, decide not to do thesis, thinking that that's a headache. But why they think that is perhaps the research culture in our country has not been well set to establish the idea that undergoing a research process is not only, creating that piece of work, but also, building our personality, changing our mindset, our perspectives, creating a new worldview that we can have to further to develop, the ELT, discourse that we are in. So that kind of, culture we need to build. There are problems with the students, there are problems with the teachers, but why is because overall research culture has not developed. As Madhuji was saying, we cannot say this or that. I completely agree with her, because there are some who are seriously into it, and there are, there's a big lot that just would like to skip this. Now, with the faculties, the issues are like, either the institution doesn't have environment where they could grow, they could prove their worth, or there is too much, overwork in the departments where, one day comes when they are saturated with their energy and then, in the time and resources. And also because, as I said, when the faculties who grew up in this kind of a non-research culture, we cannot expect them to, be a very research-trained, research-savvy kind of person overnight, and then they start producing, research works. It's not like that. So overall, this psyche, social psyche of, going into research and undertaking research and using research. Now, and then there's stakeholders, Now let's take this PhD thesis. I mean, let's not talk about MPhil or MEd, which are also equally useful. Let's say PhD. PhD is considered a degree where we produce a new knowledge. Now, who is the user of that new knowledge? Okay, certain stakeholders belonging to that, relating to that, discipline. Now, in most cases in Nepal, not just, a master's and MPhil, PhD thesis, collects the dust. Policymakers don't take it. Do not, it is not used in advising the government. It is not used to advise the, organizations. It just becomes a sort of, next step for the faculty to, get a promotion. So that culture has to change. So that is the hurdle. I mean, whatever I explain, the research culture, non-research culture is the hurdle. And then another, a minor incident, but major impact. I send students to schools. I mean, they go to schools and colleges or other places to collect data. And once what happened, one student went to a school, and then she, I think it was he wanted to observe, teachers' lessons and interview them. And what the principal said was very shocking. He said, okay, you collect data, you take our staff time, but what do you give us? Now, this student who is doing masters, who was collecting data to build knowledge, but the principal did not see that. Imagine an educated person who runs a school privately says that. Imagine, common folk of this country, valuing the research outcomes there. So this is this. And then institutions have problems with the funding, environment, this kind of, administrative hassles are there. But still, even in this, people here and people there are, undertaking research and building knowledge. They're doing this and that. But overall mindset of this ELT community has to change. Now, let me, I'll be short, but let me bring a few examples here. We talk a lot about Noam Chomsky, and the linguistic theories that he built. And imagine his major theories was part of his master's thesis. Now that changed the linguistic, discourse, as a sort of, like being second to Parini in grammar. So masters. Now Mark Zuckerberg and his group, did a project, in this ICT, and that now has built a Facebook empire. So masters, MPhil, PhD, thesis, research are, have potential, to realize, those kind of possibilities of knowledge building. But our mindset of, just piece of work, piece of document, this has to change. And then maybe and now there is a little fever has come because of this MPhil. I think PhDs would be quiet and mainly foreign produced. Masters were not taken as very seriously by the stakeholders. Now MPhil is slightly taking the different outlook. I mean, these people are vocal, they are here and there are many, so that is starting a discourse. Now, if we help these, these researchers, to decide topics, I mean, we'll not give them topics. That's how I was saying that is those funny questions I also face every day. So then maybe people will start, writing articles, papers and submitting, and then, when we submit papers to the journals, then only we realize where we stand in terms of writing, research, and knowledge building.
Okay. Having long experience and having a depth knowledge on research projects and research process, connection and interaction between the research and research supervisor and student, feedback and comments as you are doing your PhD research on this. So with your data and evidence, what is your sharing? Over to you, Madhu ma'am.
Thank you so much, Ashok sir. I agree with everything what Zaira sir and Laxman sir have said, but I have a little bit sympathy for students. So let's start how it feels to a student actually. Usually we have long experience, we have supervised many students, we have written different theses for ourselves, we have published to some extent. Then we feel like the students should take the perspective at same level. But for them, this thesis writing is very difficult task. They are doing such a demanding task for the first time. They haven't written that much. They haven't read that much. We haven't been able to encourage them. That is our responsibility. And research culture is not there. University is not supportive. We have a lot of workload. I agree with all of that. And my research has also shown that that's the reality. But even if that's the reality, even if there are challenges, the change should start somewhere, and there is no option. We have to start where we are. So at this very point, the student who come to our department and asking for thesis, and we feel like that's not the right question to ask. I think for many students, that's the real, genuine an authentic question, because that's the real problem they face. So I remember while I was doing my master thesis, I was fortunate to work with Professor Awasthi. I respect you, sir, a lot for everything, but you were my supervisor too. So he supported me a lot, and at that time I can remember how difficult it was. I felt like doing all other courses at one side, and doing that thesis, it even felt like heavier than all other courses. I was a little bit serious, so I was not that much negligent. Even then, I feel it was difficult. So the difficulty that students are facing are genuine, they are real, and the question they come up with to us, like provide topic, that is also real, that is genuine question. We should not kind of brush off that question. That is the real problem. That is like, as someone said, elephant in the room. So we need to pay attention to that. So I would suggest first thing is to take thesis writing from a student's perspective. That is, they have not read, they do not have writing skills, we all know. They do not have access to much resources, we all know that. So we should start from their shoes. So the thing the best thing to help is provide them with some specific articles, like research articles. So for example, research topic. So if they had read a lot, if they had wider exposure, they would find where their interest lies. But without that, they don't know even where the interest lies, what's the problem are. So there is one that is called Dunning-Kruger effect. That means we need to have some knowledge to realize what we do not know. So students do not know what they do not know in most of the cases, and that's not their fault. So we should start in the very beginning that our biggest responsibility lies in helping students to find a researchable topic. So for that, we can, if they come up with very vague idea, for example, teacher development, or maybe student motivation, or maybe teacher identity, we can give them 3 or 4 articles which have certain research questions, certain methodology, certain framework. Then we can ask them to read that in detail. And if they get to the end, in some articles, there might be suggestions for further research. So they can take the topic from there. Or we can ask them to replicate similar studies, because in language also we said, before we start deviating our structure, for example, in literature, we need to know what the basic is. So students first need to know what the basic of research. So maybe we can ask them to replicate that, or maybe we ask them to modify that a little bit. But where we need to start is providing them with focused reading, 3 or 4 articles which are relevant for them. So we can ask them, see what questions they have asked, and what is the suggestion, and what methodology they have used. So statement of problem, it's a real problem. Even in PhD, we need to take time a lot. So what we usually do is, your statement of problem is not right, rewrite it. Then what to do to rewrite it? We need to tell them how to rewrite. So in that case also, if we ask them, point to research article, for example, 4 statements of problem, read that, and they will see how the statement of problems are framed, how they can be done, and when they come to us, we need to read, we need to have that sense of affiliation to them. So that is affective supervision, they call it. So if we really keep their learning at the center, and we can read their statement of problem, we can find where the problem lies and tell them how to improve, or we can provide them with examples. So read these 4 articles, read how they have written, and find that out. So that might really help. So that while I was doing my master in Australia, so I found it very difficult, and my supervisor sent his own article and see how I have written the methodology, follow this process. That was very useful. Here also I read all my articles that my supervisor has written, and I try to learn from that. So we need to have specific examples to support the student. And next thing, Jara sir already said, Laxman sir already said, I agree with that. So research methodology course we are teaching, that should be made practical, there is no question. But even with that, so the problem, this thing, all those theoretical things start making sense when we ourselves engage in research. So when students start writing research problem, then at that very point we can ask them to follow the methodology book, see how research problem is written. So we need to have very, very focused feedback and from the perspective of a student. So let's not forget that we have internalized all those things because of long exposure. Any students, they are there for the first time. So let's take their perspective into consideration and let's provide them with very, very focused help. During my research, I found this practice, mostly practiced in Department of Physics, in especially in Kirtipur and even in Patan. So there, the supervisor have certain portal of material, certain folder, and they send. That is a bit easier for them because the research is very focused. In our case, that may not be that focused, but still we can find something that can provide model for a student, example for a student to follow. Then when they come, and we should provide focused feedback. Let's not make fun of students, and let's not kind of blame them. I don't think solution doesn't lie there, because I know every problem is there in the structure, but let's start from ourselves and let's come to ourselves and see how we can actually help these lovely students to come up with something new. So they will remember forever. Like I remember my sir, Zara sir, like I remember my supervisor in Sydney and my supervisor here. So I'm very grateful to them because I have been helped in a focused manner. So let's do that. Let's keep their learning at the center. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Madhu ma'am. Wow, the brilliant idea. Those who are gearing up, those who are gearing up with the research, those who are thinking to pursue research, I think these opinions might work on. So I understand the patience of participants, having 240 plus participants at the present moment, and I understand some of you are raising hand and plenty of questions. I'll open the chat after a few minutes. Considering the time constraints, I expect the short remarks in upcoming questions from the valued panelists. So now coming to the next question is with the resources, as Madhu ma'am shared just now, with the resources, exploring books, research articles in the online platforms have been challenging for the students to shape their research work in Nepal. Most of them are paid ones. They cannot buy it or they cannot afford it. And these also create conflict zone in students and they feel thesis difficult. So in this juncture, how can students explore the resources and teacher support or institutional support in Nepalese context? Now, I will start this question from Laxman Gnawali, sir.
Thank you. That's another pertinent question that I deal with every day. Now, let me connect to what Madhu madam was sharing. The discourse slightly appeared to be like students having problems, but that was not the thing. The point is students have problems and faculties have problems and there lies problems there. But we are not blaming them because they are also product of the system that we have built. So they do not develop the required skills and then awareness when they come to the programs because the lower level of education that they had. So our whole education system has to be revamped. But even then, and then more than that, if the research culture was very common, then the students would perhaps behave differently. So we need to support them. actually, what we do in our departments in government universities, we begin with the paragraph writing first. I mean, thinking that they need to start from there, and then paper, short essay writing and paper writing, then exposure to research articles, and then we share our own publications. So we do all our best. But it's still, still wider research, this culture has to develop to prepare students, faculties, and respondents and other stakeholders into this, but this is a huge task. Now let's come to this online resources. I think here it is the awareness and exposure again of the faculty who can guide students to do that, because there are a lot of resources online, and students have to pay. No, there are many paid sites, paid journals, but there are several free access journals there. So what the faculties need to do is to make a list of links and then addresses that the students can, and give them to the students who can access them and then learn from them. Also give them a kind of orientation on how to find free access articles, free access resources there. Like in Nepal, Trivandrum University Central Library has got this coordination which gives IP address access to educational institutions. Now those who are working in any part of Nepal, if you can invite the coordinators there, they will come and then set IP address based access, and you can access paid even paid journal articles there. Okay, so that's not a big deal actually. Plus, another thing is maybe I might have access to something which others do not know. So I need to share it publicly, because sharing doesn't take away what I have. So we should be sharing there. Plus, and then third is what the faculties need to train students is, when they read an article, they should learn to make use of the reference section that is given at the end.
Awasthi sir, over to you, sir. I expect the brief remarks.
Thank you very much. Laxman sir has covered most of the things, because Trivandrum University has the portal where they can share with other colleges. Secondly, there are a lot of online open access journals. So the best thing is the supervisor should make a list, as Laxman sir said, make a list of the reading materials, download the materials himself, and then provide it to the students, because this is a job of a supervisor. And we can't say that, well, go and find the books. No, this is very unethical thing. So therefore, a research supervisor has to make a whole list of the material and give it to the researcher. This is what I do myself, because I have at least 5 PhD people working with me. I give them the reading list. I give them the material, and definitely they look for them. They also try to find out. But the problem is they should not go to the predatory journal, which MEd and MPhil student might not have known. There are certain journals produced at Bagbazar or Banaras where the faculty, even the faculties pay for the publication. These journals are not edited, not peer reviewed. So we have to be careful about that. So the supervisors need to know which are predatory journals. But I want to share one very small thing. I made a calculation of the Routledge journal. It costs about 2 crore rupees if we subscribe them all. But what I propose to University Grants Commission is to at least cut some budget from each university and then make a list of the subjects offered here in Nepal, and then buy those journals for all the universities from there, and then give the password to the university and colleges. So this is a proposal that I made to UGC, but people did not realize the value of it. But what I feel is the research supervisor should help the researcher in finding the materials, at list, making a list of the materials that they need in order to do research in a particular area. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you. I want similarly with no repetition. I want brief remarks with Madhu ma'am.
Yes. So yeah, I agree with what Zaira sir said and what Laxman sir said. Yeah, Zaira sir, if that proposal is accepted by University Grant Commission, I think University Grant Commission should know that it should not take that long for them to be convinced, but I hope they will be convinced. So that would be nice thing. And as a supervisor, we can help them. And students, yeah, we need to provide them with like where to search. For example, simple thing, if we go to Google Scholar and type a topic that we are interested in, there might be list of articles. And as Laxman sir said, there are many things that we have to pay, but for something at least we can find free of cost. So our students usually, and we ourselves, we go to teacher and say, I couldn't find anything, but actually without searching. So let's not cheat ourselves. So at least try to find something, go to Google, type your topic and see, you will find, if there are 25 articles, at least you will find 2. Read that and follow the references as Laxman sir said. And then you will find others. If you, before meeting your supervisor, if we as a student can find 3, 4, and I say, okay, I read that, I found that, I want this reference, I couldn't find, supervisor will be very happy, because what type of help we elicit from our supervisor also depends on how dedicated we appear to be. So Zaira sir, during my research, every student I talked to in education, there was no one who didn't mention Zaira sir. Zaira sir is sending material to everyone. So that is what we should do. That is our responsibility. Plus, we should develop a little bit agency in learners, so asking them how to explore. And as a students, we are not only the beneficiary of supervision. You know, supervisor is not only giving us benefit. The thesis is ours. The skill that we learn will be ours. So the exploring, the skill to explore materials, skill to explore something available freely, or we can even start in the article, we can find email of the writer. We can also try doing that, write email. So if we can explain a little bit, they will be happy to share and write to others. Like some students are asking to Zaira sir, sometimes they ask me, I also do that. So everyone, if we can establish a synergy. So before University Grant Commission and university itself makes the resource available, we can help. So as for students, my request is at least take agency and see, make yourself presentable to your supervisor so that they will want to help.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Some of the students are doing a master's thesis, some MPhil and some PhD, and some of them, you might, like Zaira sir is supervising many PhD, MPhil in home and abroad, so is the Laxman sir, and as Madhu ma'am also working internationally in Hong Kong. So there are several diverse fields. If for those people who would like to open the avenues of research, what are the new possible areas in ELT research that we can do or we can explore in the context like Nepal? Over to you, Zaira sir.
Thank you, Ashokji. I have already pointed out to it earlier. So what I, in a very brief say is, the areas that the students can go is teaching with technology, say ICT integrated language teaching, learner-centered, say, or learner needs kind of teaching, and then corpus linguistics also, because we have done less in it. There may be syllabus design or material development, maybe reflective practices and teacher learning. ELT management, we have not done much on it. Or say phenomenology, which is just coming. It is inside and outside perspective of the researchers, or current scenario of ELT in Nepal, or maybe action or collaborative researches that we have not done much. So these are some of the areas where the student can pick up.
Thank you, sir. Now, same question goes to Professor Dr. Laxman Gnawali, sir.
I think the new avenues have in a way started, so we should be going more into sociological perspective of English language teaching and learning, and also methodologies that explore students and teachers' personal stories that give in-depth insights into what happens more than wider surveys. Surveys are fine, but to build theories of how languages are learned and taught. I think in-depth studies using narrative inquiry, phenomenology, or ethnography, I think they should be encouraged or practiced. And also there has been done quite a bit earlier, but these days this conversational analysis to see the phenomena that happen in the classroom or outside between students, between teachers, I think these also need to be encouraged. But these days they seem to be done quite a little tits and bits, but not as a a serious kind of research. And the last thing I would like to say is ICT related and ICT based research should be encouraged, so that maybe we will need less resource as well for undertaking any research. Thank you.
Thank you. Now over to you, Madhu ma'am.
So my suggestion would be, I feel like there is one book by Becher and Tony Trawler. They have written a book named Tribe and Territories in Research. So from that perspective, they divide research in rural and urban areas. Our context is like, we have so much area to research, everything, every area seems to be unexplored. And we have very few researchers actually. So why we do not find topic is because of lack of reading. So like research article, for example, as I said earlier, if we read until the end, they find their areas. So in the context of Nepal, everything is waiting to be researched. So our students, their motivation, their self-efficacy, their reading skills, their writing skills, our teachers, we ourselves, how we make sense out of ourselves, our work, and how we have progressed, how we have grown professionally. So there is a ELT culture system, like assessment practices, everything in Nepal for the time being is in need of research. Even if research is being done in other areas, as Laxman sir already pointed out, we need to generate our own knowledge and we need to build on that knowledge to make improvements. So even if some research is done in other area, it's not like in physics, it's not like in engineering. So in social science, we need research in our own context to make informed decision, to build on that and to make progress. So everything is waiting for research. So at this point, I would like to suggest, as Laxman sir, Zaira sir have already suggested, basically to combine. So this mixed method is the trend now. There is one research in modern language journal by Kendall King and Alison Mackey, State of Art. They have talked about research trend. So we need to push, everything is pushing the boundaries actually. Laxman sir already identified. This ELT has borrowed methodology from other areas like psychology, like sociology. So many things are there. Then my focus would be in mixed method research, because we need in-depth understanding. Without in-depth stories, we cannot understand the situation. So Robert Yin once said in his book, he said in case study, if any field doesn't have well-conducted research case studies, that area is very poor in itself, because we cannot understand it. So case studies are required, surveys are required, because we need broader perspective. plus we need quality. We need both
Thank you.
numbers,
Thank you,
we
ma'am.
need both words. So
Thank
we
you.
need to combine. So mixed method research, that should be the priority, I think, because it gives us both the perspective. And in terms of research areas, as I said, it's a rural, everything is waiting to be researched, and we can start anywhere because that is what we need now if we have to progress.
Oh,
Thank
wow.
you so much.
Wow, thank you for the light that you have said. I could see some participants giving the remarks. As for the teaching in school level, there is no culture of doing any kind of research. So in this context, how teachers can be encouraged and what should be done from the government side to encourage teachers to carry out research to effective ELT. So any one of the panelists can answer this question. Question from Vinod Sharma: what government effort could be done?
Can I quickly make one comment here? I mean, I see many of the comments relating to encouraging and motivating researchers and scholars to read research articles, which will help them to understand research and build research issues. I'll just share one initiative the University of Work in England has done. What they've done is they think that long research papers people do not like to read, or they do not find it feasible to read. There is no time. So they did a project in which they have summarized each paper, I mean, in certain area into one page. Okay, so and one page has got 4 sections: the issue, the research process, the outcomes, and the implications. And then now, so they have put them into their database, and the young scholars go and read those one-page research summaries, and then when they are interested in something, they go and read that. I think that is one way of encouraging researchers to do to carry out research reading. That is giving them a little bit of taste so that they know where the food lies that they can have for dinner.
Thank you. Any remarks from Zaira, sir? You have already suggested the government UGC. Any additional remarks from that? Yeah.
Actually, just I want to say one sentence only. The relationship between supervisor and then the researcher, that is local level, because we can settle it at the local level itself. The other thing is, doing research at the school level, we all are doing research. I mean, research doesn't mean that it has to be documented only. If you find any problem in the classroom and if you solve it, that is research. As I said, research is not a big thing. It's not a project. But whatever problem you encounter in the classroom, if you settle it down, that is research, and you just sit and reflect it, what you did. So that is research. So therefore, it has not to be guided by others. It should be self-directed and self-guided. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Some of the participants raised the voices regarding the relationship, as Zaira sir already addressed. And Santosh Sanba says, if supervisor only understand and encourage researchers, never be meaningless, they would do on regular on their issue. And Madhu Neupane says, thank you, gurus. Doing research on translinguing in ELT. What about doing? This is a new field, I guess, as Zaira already stated earlier. We'll come to your questions. Now, let's come to public voices. Let me research evidence on thesis writing. 3 years ago, there was a video viral on YouTube, thesis on sale. Let me come to the question. 3 years ago, there was a video viral on YouTube, thesis on sale, having a case of Tribhuvan University, where journalists gathered the evidence of the content repeated of same thesis, same version 3 times in the different department and finally approved. Luckily, it was not in the case of ELT, thank God. Thesis writing is often believed that third person prepares the thesis and gets finally approved. What do you think of such instances and how it could be minimized? Having short remarks from each of the panelists. Over to you, Zaira sir.
Thank you, Ashokji. This is a question of lack of research ethics and integrity, I think.
Exactly.
Because, we did not make the supervisors and the researchers to comply by the ethics. We didn't have ethical rules. That's one. Secondly, it is personal lapses. I mean, it cannot be generalized. Some of the people did it, and then they have to be penalized for that. But that has to be taken care of. The third thing is, once you publish the researches or the synopsis of the researches from the department and made them available to all the colleges, then these things will not come. But the thing is, the same supervisor and then supervising the same title and giving the same title to 3 people, this is completely unethical and then lack of integrity in research. These people are criminals in research. I must say that whatever say title they have, whatever rank they have, but this is a criminal activity in research. So this can be checked up by publishing the synopsis of the research from the department and made it available to all the campus. Because sometimes it happened, say a student in Ilam campus did a research on a topic, and the same thing can be replicated in another campus because there is no linkage. So this linkage has to be maintained by the dean's office or by the central department, so that every student in every campus, almost all the 1400 campuses, know that this kind of research has been done. As Madhu ma'am said, replication can be done because you can use the same topic, but your data or your area must be different. You can do that. Some results came out this way in this area, and the results may be different. Or maybe you can take different sample also. This can be done. But if you exactly copy down the same thing, that is the lack of research ethics and integrity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anything to add, Laxman sir?
Okay, without repeating what sir said, I agree. The process of research also helps. Like for example, when I start supervising a student, then from day one, if everything like the topic selection, first 200 words, then 500 words, or whatever this, and then the research site and names of participants, or let's say types of participants, where this person went, and the raw data, the handwritten, the recordings. If the supervisor looks into everything, I think the thesis will not come from other sources, because what has been done. But if we just accept the proposal that they bring, and then they bring another version of the document that is thesis, and we listen to them because they might have read, then there's a chance. But every step, if we supervise, I think there will be very minimal chance of doing this. And plus, this online abstracts publication, which everybody can see. If possible, thesis publication online, or at least repository. I think that way we can actually check it publicly. Thank you.
Anything to add from Madhu ma'am?
So about plagiarism, so I have 2 specific points in this case. So one is about, as Laxman sir already mentioned, thesis has been taken as a requirement. So it seems to be the same for students, and at some time it seems to be the same for supervisor as well. So students take it as a partial requirement to complete. And other thing is, as Zaira sir said, we do not have this ethical, even in this big university, we do not have any ethics review board. So, and those, as Zaira sir already mentioned, those who do wrong things are not penalized. Even in that report you mentioned, the people were not identified, and I don't think, maybe they were reprimanded a little bit, strong action was not taken. And next contributor is, we usually fail to make distinction in evaluation between students who do it well and who fail to do it well. So that's why some of the students during my research also said that if those who haven't worked very well also seems to get similar grades, so that might discourage others to work. And as we mentioned earlier, lack of resource as well. So basic thing, the most important thing I'd like to highlight is, everything has its use value and exchange value. We call, every commodity has that. So research, the real motive of research is developing our in-depth learning skills, research skills, writing skills, and also exploring materials and things like that. But it also has exchange value. The exchange value is actually, it's a requirement for graduation. So in our context, the major thing is like we seem to fail to understand why we are requiring students to write thesis, and students seem to fail to grasp why they have to write thesis. So the major problem lies in the motive itself, why. We need to take a pause, reflect, and understand, and we need to help our university to take action on that. If they understand that, they will take that plagiarism checking compulsory. They will upload these all digital thesis and make it easier to verify, and they would make resources available. And we ourselves, if we really understood the purpose, we would be much dedicated, and students, if they understood the purpose, they would be much dedicated. I think a greater synergy is required. So major thing is we need to take research thesis as a opportunity to learn, not as a requirement to graduate.
Thank you. Yes, there are plenty of questions and reflections of participants. You can also, may I request the panelists, respected gurus, just to have a few questions and reflections on the chat box also. I could see, I wish the session goes for whole day, though it seems many experience sharing. Well, let's come to another research evidence. A recent publication regarding a research training in Nepal by Paudel, Giri and Dakar 2020 has shown that the quality of research, even funded by UGC, is not to the international standard. What do you think of such scenario in Nepal? In your opinion, could you suggest the ways to make it more standard? Because many things have been repeated, but in UGC, Professor Dr. Jairaj Awasthi and Professor Dr. Laxman Gnawali, you have been directly and indirectly involved as well. What is your remarks on this? Over to you, sir. Jairaj, sir.
Thank you, Ashokji. I read the article that you extracted from. These authors themselves have given the reason why it happens. So the reason that they have given is, it is insufficient research fund given by the UGC, because if you give little piecemeal, then you cannot produce so wow thesis, wow article. Second one is lack of knowledge of the researcher regarding the impact journals, because the researcher do not know, the writer do not know the impact journal, what is its meaning. That's another thing. The third is inadequate English language proficiency also. Because if you produce a rubbish, I have the experience of examining UGC funded researchers myself, and then some of the researches, were such horrible that none of the sentence was grammatically correct. So this is a problem with the English language problem, and then they don't know the impact journal also. And also talking about the article processing charge, some of the impact journal also ask for processing charge also. So they cannot afford to pay that one. So the other thing is research ethics, because UGC has just published its ethical guidelines, otherwise it was not there, in order to make the researchers comply with that, so that they could be serious enough to produce the document so that it could be published elsewhere. So therefore, it is the lack of knowledge, I think, and then the proper guideline also in terms of ethicality and integrity. That was the reason, I think, that the researchers could not produce the journal. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I will come to participant question after a few minutes. Before I go to, yes, sir, any remarks from Laxman, sir?
I think I'll go back to my first agenda, that is the publication culture with minimum standards, which will be taken accepted by, recognized by international community. So this training the writers, the publishers, getting published. So how do we do it? Writing an essay and then getting it printed in some paper with ink is not publication. Okay, that's what we need to understand. So there are parameters. And so if we can train the faculties, the scholars, and the researchers on what makes a research article, a good research article, a valid research article, then I think people will go into that. So this impact factor category is one, index journal, like who publishes and all this. Now I'm going to share here in chat box one list of this predatory journals. So maybe the people get fooled because they publish their article in a predatory journal and they think they have been published, but it's wrong. Okay, actually the article has been killed. So if we know which are predatory, which are valid, then I think people will take the right steps. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. You can proceed. If anything to add.
Yeah, so I agree with Laxman sir and Jairaj sir. So that is, research is a skill. It takes a lot of time to develop. So we cannot just give a grant and expect them to produce very nice research article. What we need to do is, maybe the first thing, as I mentioned earlier, University Grant Commission also be very serious about it. It's not only about University Grant Commission job, is not only about disbursing grants, collecting reports and just publication. They need to have very rigorous training for promoting writing, and they need to have criteria to check the validity and reliability of research that is produced. And they need to provide platform. For example, if University Grant Commission itself creates a platform for that impact factor index journal, then maybe people will publish there. So we tend to point fingers to others, and we do not take our responsibility. This society is made of individuals. If it is going in wrong direction, we are one of the contributors. So we need to take steps. So University Grants Commission should take it very seriously. Their responsibility doesn't end up with distributing grants, collecting reports and collecting articles. So they need to have a strict quality checking mechanism, quality control mechanism. Plus I read in Arun sir, he has mentioned one comment there. So training, developing skills. We cannot give what we do not have. If I haven't developed my research skills, it's not my fault if I cannot write well. So someone who is capable should help me. So there should be synergy, as I said earlier. So University Grant Commission should take a step to promote the quality of writers, researchers, rigorous research requirement, ethical approval, all those things, and platform to share the research, and plus mechanism to control the quality. And again, the main question is why we are doing all those things. We should be clear.
Thank you. Now, we are at the final session. I'm very eager to give the voices of participants raising their hand, but we have a couple of questions only remaining. So this is a pertinent issue that some of the participants raised in the preliminary discussion. There are more than 2,200 theses conducted in the Department of English Education only in the case of EMED. And the number adds to this regarding affiliated campuses of Tribhuvan University and other universities such as Kathmandu, Far Western and others. Many students still find difficult to review those researches for the recent times. How can we develop or get access to those research to public? The question goes to Jairaj sir, please.
Thank you, Ashokji. We have already talked about it. Laxman sir also told about it. We need to make a repository of the thesis carried out all over the country. So we used to give the CDs to Tribhuvan University Library before when our students completed their thesis. So, but they did not work well because they have to be put in the website so that everybody can read them. Now the campus has to have their own websites also, where MEd programs are run, so they can upload them in their website, and these can be uploaded by the universities in their website also, so that they can be easily accessible to the people all over the country. So therefore, the best thing is the universities and the campuses themselves make the repository and then say upload the thesis in the website to make them available to everyone free accessible perhaps.
Thank you. Anything to add, Laxman sir?
Sorry, I think that's the only way, making them available online, and also giving them free access, and also sharing information that such and such thesis, like maybe if we have a clear list of what we have, who did the research, when, the topic, and the research methodology, I think people will come and check them. So it is the access and also awareness that these things are there.
If we look the recent trend about the world scenario, the research trend of publication of anthologies, abstracts, even joint articles by supervisor and the researcher in the university is in practice. However, we hardly find such practices in Nepal, even in masters, MPhil or PhD. How can we get to the such culture of academia? Can you share your thoughts in this regard in brief? Let's start from Madhu ma'am itself here. You are on the screen.
So I think that would be the very good learning opportunity for students if supervisors and students work together to produce a thesis. So it is very great, realistic, practical learning opportunity for a student. I think the first thing to start with that our research can be as good as our data only. So if data is not collected in rigorous manner, if researcher has not followed rigorous steps in the collection of data, in analysis and all those things, so at the end, it will not be possible to translate that into research article. So from the very beginning, we as a supervisor and as a student themselves, so we need to engage in very, very rigorous research process. So every decision should be informed. Why we are collecting data, why we are selecting the participants we want to select, why such methodology, why this number of sample, why this kind of analysis, why, what type of conclusion, what other research said. So if we can from the very beginning, and then very important help is required in thesis topic selection as well. I found one topic about learner autonomy. I think I forgot the name. I will explore that later. So autonomy doesn't mean leaving students alone. So it's a scaffolding. We all know by Awasthi zone of proximal development. So in the beginning, providing topic doesn't mean that disregarding their interest. If they have their interest, if they come there with topic, that's fine. So my suggestion was only for those who come to us and say, please give me topic. So in that case, but if students have their own topic, we have to welcome them. So autonomy lies there, agency lies there. Agency should be promoted. So this is a big dilemma, contradiction in research. Agency and support, they are not either, they should go together. Some level of hand-holding, some level of support, and some level of allowing them to do something. So again, when I come to research and publication, so if we can engage students in very rigorous process of research, yes, that can certainly go for publication. But decisions should be made in the beginning, not at the end, because if the quality is not good, that cannot go for publication.
Exactly. Yes, over to you, Zaira sir.
Thank you, Ashokji. Yes, you are right, and what Madhu ma'am said, research, as I said, is a collaborative work, because if you do a research, it is a collaboration of several agencies. You know, if you go to the field to collect the data from the teachers, they are also collaborators. Students, they are collaborators. Supervisor himself is a collaborator. So even a PhD work or an MPhil or MEd work, this is a collection or collaboration of ideas, putting them together. So effort is there. And for that matter, if the supervisor and the researchers go hand to hand, then the publication comes out wonderfully. So why we are scaring in Nepal is because we as a supervisor do not give much time to read the students' work. And then if my name comes and then there comes a fallacy, we are afraid of that. So therefore, we do not give much attention to the students' writing. Two of the articles of my PhD students have already published in my name also. I only read it and gave my ideas so that it was more or less reshaped. So therefore, both supervisor and teachers, as Madhu ma'am said, have to work very closely right from the first day to the end product. Then we can be joint researcher, because after all the students are researcher, but we are co-researcher. We are not the people to be contacted with. So therefore, this kind of, I have started it, and then I think the other people will start it also as well.
Thank you. Anything to add apart from this, Laxman sir?
Okay, I think that's what I agree with sir and Madhu ma'am said. The one point I would like to add is to make research really meaningful, the researcher has to reflect. I mean, with the faculty, the supervisor has to guide. How does the research issue relate to their personal life, their professional life? Then it will make sense. But taking something that I've never either witnessed or experienced or suffered or enjoyed something, I think the researcher is going to be confused. Okay, related to personal life, that makes meaningful. Thank you.
Now I will come to participants' question. May I start from Arun Nepal? He raised his hand. Your mic is unmuted, please. Arun Nepal, if you hear me.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you, Ashok, sir. First of all, I'd like to draw the attention towards the three words that my respected Guru Awasthi, sir, highlighted in the very beginning of this panel discussion. They are globalization, localization, and interdisciplinary. And the scholars have also coined the next word, globalization. I think putting the same two words, globalization and localization together, focusing on a very popular slogan, think globally, act locally. And in my opinion, globalization is not confined only in the field of ELT, but everywhere. The current evidence to this claim is that COVID-19 is, and to be very specific, this conference itself, that is, we are sharing global ideas sitting in our own room. Then here, I'm very much impressed by the concept of globalization myself. But my question is, or I'm confused, that, or my dilemma is that, which one should be given the first priority, whether the globalization or localization? And this question goes to my respected Guru, Jairaj Awasthi, sir. Thank you.
Over to you, Jairaj.
Thank you, Arunji, for the wonderful question. In the beginning, I said I borrowed these three words from Dr. Sun, who was president of TISHOL in the year 2014. Yes, the word that you have merged into globalization, yes, that is wonderful, because we take something from global perspective and we localize it and make it compatible to the local perspective. As Laxman sir said, local social cultural perspective may not be may not be similar to the international perspective. So we can take the ideas from the global perspective and then localize them to fit in our socio-cultural perspective. And then whatever you have said, I fully agree to you, it can be localized. Thank you.
Yes. Now the question, Pushparaj Paudel.
Sir, I'm unmuted. Thank you very much for this opportunity. My heartiest naman to all my respected Gurus and Guru Amas, Professor Jairaj Awasthi sir, Professor Laxman Gnawali sir, Madhu Neupane madam connected today from Hong Kong. As Madhu Neupane madam raised the issue of difficulty faced by the students during carrying out research, I'm in the same situation. Thank you so much, madam, for making me feel easy to share my problem. Initially, I was afraid and decided not to share today, for it may be of personal kind. Thank you so much for the assurance. As a requirement for the completion of MPhil degree, currently I am working on my research entitled Mandatory Monolingual Practice of English in Multilingual Nepali Schools, a critical perspective. As a teacher of English, I have witnessed that many school college authorities punishing the students differently, such as charging certain cash amount as fine or making them compelled to wear certain color badges for not using English all the time in the school premises. This made me interested to carry out this research, and I want to see the mandatory use of the English language with the theoretical lens of Gramscian hegemony and neoliberalism. Though I'm clear about this theoretical lens, now I'm facing problems with analyzing the participants' responses, how to analyze them and make meaning out of them, out of their responses. I would be grateful if the panelist, more specifically Madhu madam, who has been a PhD scholar too, because she has been facing similar kind of problems as well, and how she has been dealing with such problems regarding this. And then if this is addressed, I hope many novice researchers like me would be benefited
Thank you.
by your
Thank
expert ideas. Thank you very much.
So, Pushpa, if your data is qualitative, so the way of analysis would be thematic analysis. I think I will write you an email, or you can write me an email. I will provide you with
Madam, I collected data from 3 schools, or student, or teacher, and a parent. So 9 participants were there.
So you budget interview?
Yes, interview and then observation.
Interview and observation. So observation, did you record?
Not actually, madam. Some field note, and then I'm in the process. I have not yet, but I have not been able to take a very right track. That's why in advance I asked.
So I would like to suggest those record as well, because if you record and later on you can transcribe, listen to those transcription multiple times, and that will help you to find out the themes and understand the real situation. I'd like to suggest you to record the observation as well with due permission from your participants. And interviews, I think what you need to do is that interview also, that depends on whether you will be doing it in Nepali or English, maybe whatever language they feel comfortable with. I really like your topic, so that is very interesting, and that will have very useful implication. So this interview, first you transcribe. When you interview them, record them, transcribe them. Some people do selective transcription only to put that in thesis, but in my case, I transcribe everything. So when we transcribe everything, in the process of transcription itself, we will be familiarized with the data. So after that, we can follow the thematic process of analysis. So there are some software as well, maybe that may not be accessible. I will send you some articles. For example, Brown and Clark, they have given a 6-step procedure. So how to generate code from the data, how to thematize them, and later on how to write report. So the 6 steps, I found it very useful. I will share that with you. So I'd like to suggest you to record the observation and to transcribe all the whole interview. And then maybe in my case, I also send it for verification with the participants. That will also be useful. So then in the process, you are welcome to talk to me anytime, write me an email, and I will be happy to help you. And I'll send you that article.
Thank you. I would like to hand over to DNG for the further remarks. Over to you, DNG.
I would like to thank all the panelists for being with us, and your valued ideas have really become valuable to all the researchers who have been here with us. Nearly 239 participants were there. All the researchers were there. And I would like to thank on behalf of NELTA Province 7, and to thank formally, I would like to request Ramji Hamal sir.